Hello guys and welcome back to All for United. What a weekend, eh? The women's lost, the men lost, the 23s drew, the 18s drew. We sacked a manager, we've got an interim. What a mess this club is in at the moment. But I've got three brilliant guests lined up. I can see them all laughing backstage to talk us through hopefully some positives from the weekend. Are there any? Who knows? Let's just get straight into it.
Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from Passionate Reds, only on All for United.
There we are, look at this. Doesn't get better. John's even got a green screen. Look at this. He's proper pulling out the fancy stuff tonight.
He is,
slightly different show than the one we had hoped this week. We were hoping to do a slightly more positive show this week, but it turns out United let us down. But there we are. It's a common occurrence at the moment. I think we'll just go straight into it. Obviously, John, because I know you've got to shoot off a bit earlier, so I'll come to you first, obviously, to talk a bit about the women's game at the weekend. Obviously, they lost 2-0 to Arsenal. I think we obviously were stood next to each other in the stands. I think we both said in isolation that result on its own is not too bad, but I think if you culminate that with Ollie going, that officially announced about an hour before kickoff. Fans, the atmosphere wasn't as good as it usually is because of that, and obviously the men losing as well. It was a bit of a tough one to take, wasn't it? But how did you kind of feel, kind of before and after the game, really?
Confused before and after, to be honest, and during. So confused because before the game, because I wanted to be really up for this game. I wanted to be cheery. I wanted to cheer the players on, and obviously we did. But still partly deflated because of the news that Ollie broke literally an hour before kickoff. So yeah, it wasn't great going into that game. A lot of disrespect, I thought, for the women's team, but the United board don't consider that when they put in things out like Ollie's resigning. It's the last thing on the minds of the women's team, let's be honest. It's probably like 0.01% of the fan base that would be interested in the women's team. So I'm sure that didn't cross their mind, but as a supporter that was in that ground, it was very hard to get up for the women's team when you had Ollie in the back of your mind. But obviously, we did still cheer. On the 20th minute, we were singing Ollie's name. So that was, I thought that was our way of doing that a little bit there during the game. And the game itself, yeah, I know on the thumbnail we said it was like disastrous, but I think for the United women's team, I don't think it was that bad. I think we know that Arsenal are a level above us. To only lose 2-0, I think, is credible when you consider that we lost 6-1 against Chelsea, when you consider that Arsenal has already scored 24 goals, I think it was 24 goals before this game in the league. One of the goals that scored was a penalty. Another one was a Miedemar goal, so you can't really argue too much with that. So I think I come away from this game more disappointed in the Tottenham draw and the Everton draw than this defeat. So I think we played a lot better yesterday than other games. But yeah, the defeat, I'm not too bothered about it because I wasn't really expecting much from it, to be fair.
Yeah, I'll come back to you, John, in a second. So I know you've got to shoot off. But Maisie, obviously, it was your first time at LSV, obviously, watching the women. Were you kind of put off a little bit by the kind of the atmosphere and the news of Ollie being, we knew it was kind of breaking the day before on Saturday night, but for them to announce it, I think we were in the pub, John, just beforehand, and it kind of got announced. And we were a bit.
We knew.
It took a bit of. I don't know. I think when we were walking to the ground, didn't have the same thing. It's amazing. Did it affect you kind of going to the game thinking, oh, well, it's kind of taking a bit away now. The spotlight's on Ollie rather than on this game?
No, not at all, because when you are wanting to go to a stadium to watch the game, you just always have that full concentration on the game. Of course, with Ollie leaving the club, you do have that back in the mind, just like John mentioned, that you do feel that little bit of upset knowing that he is a player legend at the club, and he definitely did do his all, and the interview, what he done himself, really did show how much he really did love the club. But when you are at the stadium to watch the game, you just have that full concentration on the game, and you just want the ladies to do the best they possibly can. And I think considering the 2-0 defeat, and you do look at they scored 5 past Manchester City. They scored 4 past Chelsea. They scored, I think, 3 or 4 past West Ham. So they're scoring minimal, like 3 goals against every other club. So it shows that, in a way, we've been a lot more defensively stable against Arsenal compared to other teams this season. And that is something what I do find quite impressive, knowing that the form Arsenal have currently been in this season.
Yeah, and just before I come back to you, John, I just want to get Stu's kind of initial thoughts as well, because obviously, you like myself have come across to the women's game this time round. It's kind of a similar question. Like, did that kind of Ollie news and the men's result affect your kind of mindset while watching the women's game? I know you weren't at the game, but kind of watching that, was Ollie kind of at the back of your mind as well?
Not really, unfortunately. I'm too old school. Been around a long time, and I've seen it all before, and it's a shame, really. And I was resigned myself to the fact that after the Watford debacle, he got nowhere to go, unfortunately, and so did the board. And I couldn't quite. Look, I know they've gone on about they've got to inform shareholders, etc., things of that nature, and I get that it takes time. It's a process, but there's better ways of handling things, and of course, our board yet again just do what they do, and their timing. And I think Maisie and I think John was right. The board don't give a damn about the women's team. I've made my feelings clear about that in the past, and it hasn't changed. And so for me, it didn't really change. I enjoyed the game, actually. I didn't expect us to beat Arsenal. I was fearful. I thought we might concede a bit more, because that Miedemar, or whatever her name is, up front, hasn't she scored about 15 goals or something already this season? Am I close? 13, 14, something like that. I mean, she scored an absolute boatful, hasn't she? And I didn't think she looked, particularly good, actually. She clearly is. She's a hell of a striker, clearly. But I thought Mannion and Thor, I thought kept her out quite well. You can question, and I did question the position of Earps. I couldn't quite believe that. I mean, using a player to dummy a goalkeeper is nothing new in football. You do it all the time, as much as you can. But Mary was off one side and the goal went in the other. And then she made a valiant attempt to dive, but she was miles away from it. So I'm not quite sure whether she assumed Miedemar, whatever her name is, was going to try and swerve it, top corner or something along those lines. But as a goalkeeper, you've got to be positioned centrally. If she'd been positioned centrally, she would have stopped it, because the commentator said that the Arsenal striker rifled it home. There was no trigger pulling there at all. It was a smartly struck shot, but very non-powerful. But unfortunately, because of my age, I've seen it all before, so I wasn't too surprised. But I was pleased with the overall performance of the women. But I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. In real time, I thought I was annoyed at Honor initially for giving the ball away. I was annoyed at Katie for letting Miedemar just run past her. And I didn't really look at Mary. It's only when I've watched it back, I'm like looking at her going, why is Earp so far over? She was almost touching the post, like ready for a free kick. It was really bizarre when you watch it back. John, the last question I've got for you then before you have to jump off, and this is a real tough one. That's why I want to ask you this. Do you think we're finally seeing Skinner's style of play come across? Now, obviously, after Chelsea, there was a lot of criticism, especially from the kind of fans that, go week in, week out about, not using the width enough and this kind of thing. But that's clearly Skinner's way of playing. Do you think the players are finally understanding now what he's trying to implement?
Yes, but whether or not they're all capable of doing it to a level that we need to get to is another question. And I think we saw that in his quotes after the game, talking about squad depth. In the stadium, we were saying, why haven't you made a sub yet? Why haven't you made a sub yet? And I think that's the only criticism I would give Skinner across the whole game, because I actually thought that we played very well, as Maisie said, to contain them to just 2 goals. I thought was good. I thought throughout the game, I felt like we was going to create a chance or creating chances more so than when we drew against Tottenham. So I was quite happy with how the game went, apart from like the substitutions. But then when you think about it, there's obviously a reason why he doesn't make substitutions until a bit later. And it must be a trust thing. In his head, there must be a massive difference between the starting 11 and the players who he's got on the bench. And he shouted over, talking about he needs more players. And he mentioned it, Catherine Batty mentioned it on Twitter as well. I think it was on the actual not press conference, but the post-match interview. It lasts for about 6 minutes on the Man United Women's Twitter page. So I do think that's the kind of style we've been playing. I do like the fact that we've used the width more in the last couple of games. I like the fact that he's trying to switch to play a bit more, but has he got the players to actually do those long range passes? Apparently, Balrita can do that, so maybe we'll see a bit more of her. I did like that. I do like the fact that we was a lot more gritty. I know that's kind of his word to say that he wants to see that grit, but I did see that. So I do think that we're moving in his direction, but whether or not the players that are there at the moment can actually perfect that, I'm not too sure. And I think we'll probably see, in January and June, a change of personnel.
Can I just add to what John said? Because what John's talking about there about application, as I might have mentioned it once or twice on the men's channel, John's absolutely right, and it gets completely missed. Most fans will completely not even take that into consideration, and they'll look at the manager and look at his style of play. It's not been worked upon. Why isn't he doing this? Why isn't he doing that? But the thought process needs to be, hold on, can we do that? It's not why aren't we doing it, but can we actually do it? So when the players are on the pitch, have we got the players capable of doing exactly what Skinner wants and how Skinner wants to play? So, John, I totally agree with you, mate, on that one, 100%.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things, and I think fitness is another problem. And this is really strange, and I don't think there is any correlation, but I do find it a bit weird that the men's first team seem to have a lack of fitness at times and injuries, being rushed back from injuries. The women's side don't look fully fit. The under-23s, when I've watched them this season, look really off the pace as well. So maybe there is something in this training regime at Manchester United at the moment, and the fitness, whatever. I know it's different for each set of squads. Something doesn't seem to be right. We don't seem to be as fit as we were last season. Whether, COVID season, I know it's different circumstances, but just obviously, John, I'll come back to you. You said you've got 5 minutes. I'm going to keep you hold you to that. I'll come back to you for one final question in a moment. But Maisie, obviously, just your kind of final thoughts on the women's game. What you've watched obviously United women this season. Is that to the level that you thought we'd play? Did you think we played well? How did you think we got on?
Overall, I think we have done well. There has been some times where I think we've conceded a bad goal, and that shouldn't have gone. We shouldn't have conceded that, and it is costing us them points. But I always do think of, obviously, knowing that we've still got a new manager. He's been here for 3 months. We're still learning this style of play, because when I do look at some previous games, you still see a bit like Casey Stoney's style of play in some of the players. And I think it doesn't help when some of them are trying to play like Mark Skinner, then some of them try to play like Casey Stoney. It's not always going to work. And you do know, like, when you are learning this style of play, it can take several months, it can take a season, could even take longer than a season. And for me, it is always about patience and giving the manager a chance. And I'm always willing to give the manager a chance to see how they do truly get on. But I am really happy with so far at the moment with the women's team. Although the last couple of games, not the Arsenal one, but like the Everton one and the Spurs one, is that a little bit frustrating. If you do get that, obviously that lead, and you are wanting to, if you think, oh my God, I'll slack a little bit, try and get another goal or two in the first half, and then you're a bit more safer when it comes to the second half. And I think that's what would be best, if we try and put our A game on in the attacking for the first half, so we've got that comfortable margin ready for the second half. Because it's always that one goal we always concede in the second half, which is a bit of a damper.
Yeah, I think it's always worse when you go up and draw, and I think we saw that with the women's side. That was at the time Everton was 4 consecutive going ahead and not winning from winning positions. John, I'll come to you. Just have the final word kind of on the women's team. We will be discussing Ollie and Carrick and everything to do with the men's team, unfortunately, in a moment. But John, kind of final word on the women's side then. I don't really know how to phrase this question other than, we're nearly halfway through the season. We've got a couple of games before we get to the halfway stage after the international break. I think we've done all right this season. The only 2 games we've lost are the top 2, Chelsea and Arsenal. We've had a few too many draws in there, but how would you kind of assess where we are at the moment? Do you think this side can still get top 3 if Skinner gets the backing that he is called out for. You know, he was very vocal about it after Arsenal.
The way I look at it is we're 3 points off top 3. So we still need to play teams above us, like the Brightons and the West Ham. So it's still in our hands. So basically, top 3 is in our hands. So yeah, I do. You know, I think the league position where we say that we're 6th, but there's only 3 points between 3rd and 6th. You know, I think it's very much in our hands. Look, it's not been great. Everton and Tottenham draws were dropped points, but obviously everyone's dropped points apart from Arsenal, really. So to me, it's very much on. I wouldn't say on par because I would have probably expected an extra 2 points so far. But even then, that would have been still near enough where we are now. So I think that we're doing okay. If you consider the amount of players that we lost in the summer, everyone thought it was a catastrophe. A new manager came in. A lot of people were just talking about, okay, let's just stabilise the ship. Let's just make sure that we're okay. I think that we're more than okay. I think that we're in a fighting chance. It's not going to be easy, but I still think we're in a fighting chance with Man City to get that 3rd spot. And people probably look at the league thinking, Man City, they're like 7th or 8th, but you know, they're only 2 points behind us with, you know, we still have to play City and eventually their players will start to come back. So for me, it's still between Man United and Man City. Tottenham have done very well to do what they've done so far, and that'll probably continue. But I still fancy it between us and City. So I think to still be in the conversation after 8 games is good. Whether or not we'll be in the conversation in January, we'll have to wait and see. But if we are, then I think we stand a very good chance of competing.
Oh, John, you always bring the positivity that I want when when talking about the women's side, especially. If you're ever near John in the ground, you know, John probably hates it. I'm always ranting to him. Why aren't we doing this? We're playing 2 now. We're doing.
Connor, there's a lot worse than you. There's a lot worse than you. Trust me. You're like the closest to my mindset, I think. But no, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, no, brilliant having you on the show, John. If you want to hear more from John, he's live in about 40 minutes' time on the women's channel, Wolf United WFC. If you want to get more reaction to the Arsenal results, so definitely go and check that out. But yeah, brilliant to have you back on.
Thanks for having me. Amazing. Good to see you yesterday for the first time at the ground. And Stuart, I'll have to see you at the game very soon as well.
I'm going. December's difficult for me with family. It's a problem.
And me, to be fair, January.
Yeah, we've got young kids, but I will be as soon as I can get back. I will be there, pal. Don't you worry. But I am tuning in and watching. I'm keeping well abreast of what's going on, pal.
Nice one, mate. Okay, I'll catch you guys soon.
Thanks, you guys.
So just the 3 of us, and we may as well discuss the kind of breaking news that has come out today and everything around that. I don't want to turn this into a was Ollie, was it the right time for him to go? Because I think we all agree it was, and the players, we need to hang their heads in shame. In my opinion, I think Callum said it brilliantly on Uncut last night that the players have really let Ollie down, and I think Maisie, you touched on earlier, that interview that Ollie did yesterday was horrible to watch. Especially towards the end when he was talking about, he says to the players before he left, show you need to show what you're worth kind of thing, and you trust yourself and all this. But obviously there's been breaking news today that Pochettino is ready now to come out for the job, and there was a big debate in our All for United chat earlier about this. And me personally, I've never been a big fan of Poch. I'm going to have to delete some tweets if he does get appointed for a number of reasons. But I'll just get your 2 kind of initial reaction to that. Then obviously the news that have come out today. Stuart, I'll come to you first. And just Pochettino, is that kind of the direction do you think the club's going in now?
Well, yeah, clearly. Look, the whole 24 or 48 hours has been pretty dire. For a fan of our great club. It's hard to fathom how we've dipped so low. But, when I was growing up, Liverpool were going through their cycle of being top dogs. And then we knocked Liverpool off their perch, as Fergie once rightly said. And we went through a cycle of being top dogs. And I was speaking to somebody on a show earlier, and he made a point that when he was growing up, it was all Manchester United. And I said, you may or may not remember this, Connor, but on one of our very first shows together, I said that Manchester United fans are spoilt. And they've been spoilt through that all those years of winning titles. So the expectations are really up here. But at that particular time, we were playing with diamonds and gold. Unfortunately, now we're playing with copper. We're in that kind of era. And until we kind of remove the boards or get some kind of semblance of a football board in place, a football structure that then answers to the main commercial board, whoever comes in, and we've had, likes of Van Gaal and Mourinho considered in their own right to be elite managers who haven't been able to really progress the team to that next level. Whoever comes in, be it Poch or whoever, I think is going to struggle to get us over that line and take us back to the promised land that the fans so desperately want. And for me, look, Pochettino, I'm kind of on the fence with him, if I'm being honest. I think he'd be an okay fit for us. I'm not doing cartwheels and excitement. Ten Hag is more my type of manager because I think he's a more methodical type of coach. He's a more structured coach. You could argue that Pochettino has got, method and structure, and he's had to work in 2 toxic jobs, hasn't he? He's had to work with what's his name at Tottenham? I can't remember his name. Slipped my mind now. Daniel Levy, and he's got issues at the moment with egos in Paris. So he could obviously come to Old Trafford and he could cope with the dysfunctional board and the issues that he's likely to have. But my biggest problem with everything at the moment, and I'm not going to go too much into it, is we're just in rotation all the time. Every 2-3 years, you're changing a manager. So you're in the same rotation. You'll never get out of this cycle unless you really back someone. And when I'm talking about backing, I'm not talking about backing them in the transfer market. I'm talking about giving them an infrastructure where they can go to a director of football, a proper director of football, somebody who knows what they're doing and can be that link, that direct link between the football side of it and the board. And until that happens, we're never going to succeed on the pitch. We might get a fluke every 1 or 2 years. You might get a cup, you might get a Champions League, but there's no real structure behind it. And we know the way that the Glazers' business model is. We know that it's finance based. And these guys that are running the club are brilliant financiers. They're absolute top drawer marketeers. Stay there. Stay on that side of the fence. Do what you do best. And let football people do what they do best. So, my feelings on Ollie. I backed him. I was strong on backing Ollie, and I was devastated. I didn't want to do any of the shows directly after because I was too angry. And I was too angry last night because I'm sick of the fan base, most of our fan base. But I've had time to relax and calm down a bit now. So hence my more methodical viewpoint on it.
More measured approach.
Yeah, measured.
I'm just going to get to a couple of these comments. John, you're really testing my English here. I failed it about 5 times. I can't actually say
ambivalent.
There you go. Stu said it. He's not my favourite, and you have to question if he's a winner. Exactly. Ten Hag would be the best option. I think with Ten Hag, we don't want to buy him out of a contract, nor so he's not available till next year. And I think with Poch available now, it kind of, I think that's probably why the board are looking at it. I want to come to this comment from Brown Knight, and this kind of leads me on to what I was going to ask you, Maisie. Is Poch an upgrade on Ollie, or is Brown Knight making a good point there? Is it almost just we're just going from one to the other and just going sideways?
I actually agree with Brown Knight's comment completely. You look at what Poch has done in his managerial career. Yeah, he's managed Southampton, mid-table to relegation team, that kind of way. So fair enough. Going to Spurs, and don't get me wrong, what he done at Spurs, getting into the Champions League final is great. Because you would have never have expected that from Spurs. However, he's a yes man. People say Ollie's a yes man, but so is Pochettino. He literally went without 2-3 transfer windows without getting anybody. And then it obviously went downhill when Spurs was feeling demotivated after their Champions League final. He didn't bring anybody in. And then you question it as in why you're not bringing anyone in. You should be strengthening your team if you are wanting to continue Champions League football, if you actually are serious in challenging for the Premier League. Because when you look at the players they've got, like Harry Kane, Son, you are expecting a lot more from Spurs than what Pochettino actually did do for them. And he's gone to PSG. And you do think, yeah, PSG is a big club. Surely he will win a trophy here. He does. He wins it 16 days later. But when you do look at it, it's a cup game. And he literally probably played only one game under that cup. And it's a win. It's a 50-50 situation with that. And it was pretty much Tuchel who were that to get to that cup. So you could morally say it was Tuchel's doing. He's won another cup at PSG. Fair enough. However, he bottled the league at PSG. And that was for the first time in a long time. PSG did not win the league, and you do question of why did he not win the league? When you do look at as well how PSG is as a team, the players they had at the time like Mbappe, Neymar, Di Maria, you do question and you think why are you not winning this league? And you literally bottled it by 1 point. 1 point is. I was literally absolutely baffled, and he's been. Considering how PSG is, how their board is, he's been backed enormously in the transfer window. Getting Messi, getting Ramos, who he's not even played. He's got Willian. Oh, I can't pronounce his name.
I know you mean. I know you mean. Yeah.
Brought him as well. Donnarumma, who won the Euros. So he's got here serial winners on his hands. But he doesn't know how to use them because he's still a yes man and he's probably thinking, I want to be everyone's friend here. You can't be everybody's friend when you're a manager. You need to stand your ground like Mbappe. If you're not happy at this club, go. When I'm not playing you. Messi, even though Messi, he is what some people would say the GOAT, but he's not producing what he's producing in Barcelona, and you do question why is that? Is that down to the coaching of Pochettino, or is it because he's not adapting to the league yet? You've got as well. Why are you not playing Ramos? That's another question. The amount of wages Ramos is on, the amount of Champions Leagues he's won, the La Ligas he's won. Yeah. You do question why you not playing Ramos, because I would literally a couple of seasons ago I would die to have Ramos in Manchester United.
He's injured still. He's still injured. That's it. But I know what you mean. Yeah, he's still injured.
He's been on the bench once. He's been on the bench once.
Yeah, you can't get over this knee injury or something. I'm not quite sure what's happened there, but you are right. I mean, when you look at Poch actually as a manager, and I agree with you, Maisie. I think you're absolutely spot on, really. In his utilisation of players, utilisation of the system, Verratti is a linchpin for them. Yes. He's been missing through injury. You're absolutely right, but they've still got wonderful talents. They've probably got the best centre half on the planet, in my opinion, in Marquinhos. He's an absolute Rolls Royce. He's fantastic in there. They got Donnarumma. I didn't really rate him until I saw him in the Euros, and he had a great Euros. You know, they've got Di Maria. Whatever we think about Di Maria, the snake that he is, he still can play football. The man can play football. Mbappe, Neymar, the egotistical Neymar, he can't get anything out of Messi. So Kimpembe at the back, you know, you can go on forever. He's got two fullbacks that aren't brilliant, are they? You know, so but the one thing that I do hold my coat on a little bit is he gave me a couple of years ago one of the best semi-finals in Champions League history. When,
is this the Ajax one?
The Ajax game. I can see it now. The comments, everything about that game was just wow. I mean, that's what football's about. You know, Manchester United fans absolutely going berserk, nuts with what was happening because I couldn't see what was unfolding in front of my eyes. I couldn't believe it. Ajax were cruising in that game. And Lucas Moura has the game of his life. And he's got that. Pochettino has that potential, doesn't he? He's got that ability to mould a team. I mean, that is a team that just refused to give up. And then they rolled over and had their bellies tickled in the final against Liverpool. We all know that. But if he could do that more often than not, if he could galvanise our group of players like that more often than not, then you're in for excitement, aren't you? But it's but a yes man's no good for us, Maisie.
Exactly.
I agree. We can't have a yes man. Conte would never have worked with our board.
Neither would Zidane. Zidane wouldn't either.
As much as we may rate Conte, I'm not so sure I rate Zidane anyway. I mean, he went into Madrid with a already well-oiled machine. the best central three you're ever going to get in Casemiro,
Modric
Kroos,
was
and
another one.
Modric. Yeah, the best three you're going, and Benzema. Connor loves Benzema because because he always find the back of the net for you. So you're going to do something with that. And he didn't set La Liga alight, did he? I don't think he won the La Liga, did he? He won 3 Champions Leagues, but I don't think he won La Liga. So Pochettino, he's got to, if he comes to us, he's got to have this ruthless streak in him with the board and the players. And you're right. If you're not playing well enough, you're not in my starting 11. I don't care who you are. Egos get stuffed. But as well as I do, Maisie, and this is where I think your point's going. Got to play Ronaldo. Money, shirts. He sells shirts. Get him on there. Yes, he'll score you a goal, but if you put him on with 25 minutes to go, he'd still probably score you a goal. You need to balance that team. And we've got to change goalkeeper out. We've got to put Henderson back in, take De Gea out. Unpopular opinion, I know. I said it the other day and I got told I was clueless. But actually, when you look back at last season, and before Henderson got injured, we were far superior at the back. We were far stronger. We were settled. De Gea this year, he's made some top-class saves. I'm not saying he hasn't, but he's very timid. He's very weak. He'll stay on his line. The second Atalanta goal, if he'd actually come out and cleaned the kid out, he wouldn't have scored, And so this is what's happening to us. And so, whoever comes in has got to look at it. You don't fit my system. I'm sorry, you're benched. And that's what he's got to do. So I agree with you 100%, mate.
Yeah, I think James made the comment earlier. I think Poch over Rodgers, I think, is the obvious one. And to be honest, I would rather get a manager now. I think Kartik made the point yesterday that after Arsenal, we've got winnable games all the way until I think it's the end of January, February, March time. We've got a long run of winnable games that can completely turn our season on its head, and in a good way. So you're looking at it thinking if we can get a top appointment in that, and the one thing I want now, it sounds weird, but like consistency, and I want stability again, because I don't want interim Carrick for 3 games, 4 games. Then we get interim to the end of the season with his own style of play, whatever. Then we get another manager. Let's just get this sorted now. Obviously, I know it's not going to be sorted for Villarreal or Chelsea, but let's get it done. Kind of in the middle of Chelsea and Arsenal. We might not be in charge for Arsenal, and then we've got Palace on the Sunday, and let's go again. Well, that whole saying, let's go. Let's get the right appointment and let's turn this season around, because this season's not over. I don't believe what people say that this season's finished. We're in November. This season's not far from finished.
You need to look at Chelsea, for instance, before they sacked Frank Lampard. They was 8th and 9th, and they still managed to get to 4th place in the Premier League. So they still Champions League. They won the Champions League, got to the FA Cup final. So you can't ever write off a team like this. Imagine if I know obviously this is going to be unlikely, but imagine if we won every single game now till the end of the season. We could win the league. We could get into 2nd, 3rd place. You can't write someone off like that.
No, and you're right. Both of you are absolutely right, because and Connie, you make a great point, mate. The season isn't over till it's over.
Yes.
It isn't over till it's over. And this is what I always say about football. If you ever watch me, Maisie, I talk because I talk as a player, and I always say, and Connor laughs at me all the time, but I always say a game lasts 95 minutes, 96 minutes. It doesn't last 90 minutes. It lasts until that whistle goes, and you keep playing and you keep pushing and you do everything you possibly can to win that game of football in the time that you've got allotted to you. And this is the same with a season. A season isn't 10 games. It's not 12 games. It's 38 games plus, your cup matches. We don't know where we're going to finish in May. We don't know where we'll be in May right now. And this is the problem with the bulk of our fan base. You've got to look at it with, your eyes wide open and not shut like a lot of us do, unfortunately. A lot of football fans are just so blinkered. But look, it broke my heart for Ollie to go. It really did. But I did say it was the right time for him to go. And I think we all understand it was the right time. And I think he would admit it himself. It was the right time for him to go. But it's funny, you watch Maguire at lunchtime. I don't know if you saw him. And there was no real apology to him. Oh, well, as players, we've got to take responsibility. Well, anyone could sit up in a microphone and say that. You've got to be a bit more, have something about you. I liked Carrick because Carrick was saying, look, we've let him down, etc., but actually football moves on. That's what you want to see. Football moves on. We know they're going to put a performance on Tuesday. We know this because that's what happens. You don't need to be a rocket scientist. You can know zip all about football and we're probably going to win on Tuesday. But Chelsea is going to be a completely different kettle of fish. So Connor's right. Let's start getting that ball in motion now. If he can't make it in the dugout for Arsenal, at least let's give him some input because he'll have some input if he is going to come in. I'm with you 100%. I think you're both. It's nice to be on a show actually where we all kind of agree and it's nice.
I'm hoping we all come up with something different. We're going to end this in a minute, but I've got one final question. You wrap it up as quickly as you want on this question. I kind of hope we think of something different, and I haven't actually got my answer to this. I always try and end these shows with a difficult question, but one that should be a little bit of fun. So I'd like to hear your kind of comments as well. Get in the comments with this. If you could pick one positive from the weekend, are there any? And what is it? That could be from the women's side, from the men's side, for the academy. Is there any positive from this weekend? I think, Maisie, judging by your reaction, you're finding that that's going to be a difficult one. But
I think you're probably laughing about Brown Knight calling me boring for some reason. I don't know why I'm boring. I don't know what I've done to bore him.
Either of you can go first on that one.
He normally likes me, Brown Knight does. What have I done? Positive. Well, that's a real tricky one, that is. Oh, Jesus Christ, positive. Yeah, Donny scoring.
I was going to say there's a good shout there with Donny scoring.
Yeah, Donny scored. Yeah, I'll go with Niall and Foxes. Yeah, Donny scoring. Yeah, it'd have to be that because I couldn't think of anything else really. Oh, well, Karthik doesn't like me. I know that. He's never liked me. I'll go with DVB. Thanks, Karthik. Love you too, pal.
Maisie, for yourself?
For me, Donny would be one. Another one was Sancho in the men's team because I felt like Sancho, even though the team overall wasn't that good, you could see that little bit of potential in Sancho and you could see the kind of player he is. He was getting forward, he was taking on defenders, what he wasn't seeing in the past, and he wasn't relying as much on the right back, which is obviously Wan-Bissaka. He wasn't relying on the people who was behind him as much, and you could see that he was going forward. He was doing his crosses, he was taking his chances. So you could tell he's getting a lot more confident in terms of the team itself. So that was one positive for me. Donny is definitely a positive, seeing that he's got his minutes. He's, of course, got his goal, which is absolutely brilliant to see. For the women's, what I actually do think in terms of positivity was in the game itself, it just felt like we were structured for a lot longer than what you have seen in the past so many games. I felt like we were much better defensively, even though we obviously had that penalty and that goal, the first goal. It just felt like we was a lot better defensively, and we did work well considering who we was playing against, the amount of goals they have scored before. So you could tell that the team was a lot more structured, and of course seeing the minutes of Carrie Jones, because she looked absolutely electric when she came on as well.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with something a little bit different. Eric put it earlier. I think Ella Toon obviously signing a contract. That people really underestimate how important that is. She is the Bruno Fernandes of the women's side, and to get her tied down with interest from Barcelona, were looking around. They're the best team in the women's game at the moment by far. Chelsea were looking around. So to tie her down, considering Man United don't have Champions League, and potentially we're going for it this year, but might not get it this year. To get her down for, I think it's 3 or 4 years, that's a huge contract. So that was really good that we got that tied down. We've got a few more players in the women's game we do need to tie down, though, with plenty of players out of contract next year. I think Donny scoring as well, because that shut me up. And it wasn't his goal, actually. It was his performance that really impressed me.
He was excellent, wasn't he? Yeah, he was excellent.
It was his kind of tenacity to win the ball back in midfield. It shows he can play in a 2, in my opinion, and what he did there. And he was just brilliant. So Ella Toon's contract. I agree with Maisie as well. I think defensively on the women's side, we were more compact than we were. We didn't capitulate like we did against Chelsea.
When you've got Thor at the back, what do you expect?
She was good. she was good and bad. I think she had shaky moments in the first half.
She did.
But
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
but it is tough against good Arsenal
I
side.
actually, a lot of that sometimes is Mary. Mary's a bit quiet. She's not hugely vocal. When I'm in the south stand at LSV, you can hear it or not, as the case may be. She's not hugely vocal. She needs to be a bit more vocal because at times Thor and Mannion are a little bit too far apart. We need to be a bit closer together sometimes. But
yeah, so there are some positives. See, between the three of us, we've managed to find some
I've come up with
positives from a catastrophic weekend as a United fan. That's it. Some people are going to say, and I tweeted it a minute ago saying, are there any positives? And I know people are going to say Ollie leaving and these kind of things. Entitled to your opinion, that's fair enough. Like I said, we just tried to do it a little bit different on this channel, try and find some actual positive things that happen. So between the three of us, we came up with it. I must thank these two for stepping in at very, very late notice. I must say it was a very last minute call, and obviously for John earlier for stepping back in. Like I say, if you want more reaction to the women's team, they're live on the women's channel in about 15 minutes. So go and check that out, All for United WFC. Making sure you're liking and subscribing on the video as well. Plenty of content this week. Obviously, we've got Villarreal tomorrow, so the reaction to that, hopefully after a big win. We do need to win tomorrow. And we got content throughout the rest of the week as well, so stay tuned for all of that. But yes, thank you to these two. Make sure you're following those two on Twitter, but we'll see you guys soon.